Tina, awesome. Okay, so it's 9 a.m. Let's get started. I'm sure people will be tuning in as we go through the morning here. So welcome everyone. Like I said, take a minute to introduce yourself in the chat. We have a packed agenda today. Thank you for joining us again at our second semi-annual Awesome Conference. My name is Shanuka, and I'm the Awesome Program Manager, and I'm also going to be your MC this morning. So this is super great. This is our second conference. The first conference we hosted was in November, and we talked about money. We talked about investments. We talked about the pathway to being a woman and being a food processor and what that means for cash and how to grow our businesses in that regard. This conference, by demand, is about marketing, and that's a huge topic. And if you look at the agenda, which I'll show you in a second, it's not like, oh, these little areas. I've tried to expand the conversation, talk about some big topics. If you're unfamiliar with Awesome, we are a program of the Saskatchewan Food Industry Development Centre, which is a processing facility with a wide variety of food development and innovation services. If you haven't connected with the staff at the Food Centre yet, I encourage you to do so, and I'm happy to facilitate that introduction. The Food Centre in Saskatchewan and the food centers in Alberta and also in Manitoba are centers that you need to stay connected with as you grow your business. And Awesome is also supported by the Government of Canada through Western Economic Diversification. And if you are not familiar with Western Economic Diversification, you should Google them because they are your source for, your main source for funding. Western Economic Diversification supports both entrepreneurial ecosystem providers like the Food Centre and many other people on the call, Alberta Women Entrepreneurs, WESC, all these ecosystem providers, but they also have funding for the entrepreneur themselves, right? So I encourage you to make sure that you understand how WD works and check out their website because it'll help, I promise. So people are still streaming in, which is great. So if you just joined us, welcome. And I'm encouraging everyone to introduce themselves in the chat. Please use the chat. As you can see, so I'm sure you saw, we have a full agenda. So as always, I'm going to do a quick preface, and then I will introduce our first panel of speakers, take a quick body break at 10:20. We'll reconvene at 10:30 to hear our headliners, our stars, our founders, so entrepreneurs in our community. Okay, and I'll introduce them when that time comes. And then I hope to wrap up by noon. Okay, so let's begin. So I always like to do a preface when we get together. And today my preface includes, of course, a treaty acknowledgement. Then I want to spend 2 minutes talking about some concepts in the treaty acknowledgement that relate to our industry. And then I want to talk about, I'm going to segue into a different topic, which I've called owner qualifiers. And, we'll get there when we get there. So give me 2 seconds. So like I said, my preface includes a treaty acknowledgement, and I want to say that we pay our respects and reaffirm our relationship to the history, the Indigenous ancestors, and the people of this land, particularly Treaty 1, 2, 6, and 7. So we actually, I'm coming at you with Treaty 6, but we are actually, there's so many people calling in from across the land. So I want to be clear that there's many treaties involved in our connecting today. And the names are the Shinabeg, the Blackfoot, the Cree, the OG Cree, the Dakota, and the Dene, just to name a few. This acknowledgement is one small part of Truth and Reconciliation, but it is essential in light of it being Indigenous History Month. Monday was Indigenous Peoples Day, and of course, 215. So another small part of Truth and Reconciliation, a major part that we don't talk about enough, is sustainable food systems and Indigenous food sovereignty. And there's an entire history of the food and health sector in Canada as it relates to Indigenous people's experiences. there's also a path forward. There's also a reconciled path forward that ensures all of our food systems are sustainable. This movement is supported by the government, the non-government agencies, and the Indigenous agencies. So I want to take a moment to encourage all of you to keep your learning paths open and as participants and leaders in the development of new reconciled sustainable food systems, because we definitely are at a pinnacle. You as a Canadian food processor can contribute towards truth and reconciliation, and I hope you feel empowered and encouraged to do so. And so thank you for listening. And the reason why I care about this so much, the reason why I included it in the preface and why I couldn't separate it out from anything, I couldn't separate it out really, is because that my whole job is to advocate for a marginalized group of people in society, i.e. the entrepreneurial society, and that's you, right? Me, I support women. My whole job is based on supporting women in business. So it's impossible for me not to participate in the larger conversation. And as we participate more, I see a lot of you engaged in this conversation, and it's so great. And as we participate more, we can see how our actions have a positive impact, right? Like on these larger systems, both as individuals, but and when I say the system, I mean like the economic system, right? Buying and selling and creating all of those things, being inspired and making profit. So the economic cog is so powerful. And particularly something I've noticed over the past year and maybe even so this past month is supplier diversity. So it's not just about resonating with your customers, it's about seeing the whole supply chain and how you play the whole supply chain. And you're thinking you're probably like, why is she talking about this stuff? Like, we're here to talk about marketing. We're here to talk about social media. We're here to talk about logos. We're here to talk about communicating to our customers. But let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a couple questions. We engage in marketing. You engage in marketing because you want to increase your sales, right? That's the whole thing. And you probably mark yourself as a woman-owned business. Why? Because you hope it'll lead to more sales and more related opportunities, which is so logical, I'm here to validate that, absolutely. There's a whole conversation about you as a woman entrepreneur. In marketing, we're obsessed with competitive advantages and value propositions, right? We build the marketing plan off of those terms or those concepts in our business. And usually those terms are synonymous with each other. But in regards to being a woman-owned business, or when we talk about, when I say owner qualifiers, I mean you, the marketing of you, the branding of you, and how that pertains to your sales. So you can be a woman-owned business or any other kind of qualifier. And it's not necessarily a competitive advantage to be a woman entrepreneur, right? That's why I'm here doing what I'm doing, so that you can be more competitive in business. But it's definitely a value proposition. I'm seeing it more of a value proposition for an investor or your customers, obviously, but also your suppliers, right? Like your suppliers also want to do business with strong, sustainable new companies. So it's not just about that resonation with your customer, okay? There's a value proposition with you being a woman entrepreneur. And then perhaps, even more, maybe you're part of other groups where you get to express yourself in that way, and your customers and investors will resonate with that. So I asked the speakers, so again, Shanuka, why are you talking about this stuff? I asked the speakers here today to talk about marketing as it relates to your product, as it relates to the actual product and probably to your customer, right? But I want to stress that there's a whole other marketing game, a whole economic policy, a whole social conversation as it relates to you as a woman, maybe a Black woman, maybe an Indigenous woman, maybe a woman of color, maybe a young woman, maybe a woman with health conditions or a disability, maybe a trans woman. So it's not just about customer resonation, it's about understanding your role, your power in the whole economic system, in the supply chain, and the marketing, the responsibility that comes with that. And at the end of the day, there's no right or wrong, how you play your magic. If you want to identify as a woman-owned business, all the power to you. That's again why I'm here. If you don't, again, that's why I'm here. The metaphorical and literal profit is in the ability for us to hold compassion from multiple perspectives, and therefore we can be stronger marketers. I simply wanted to remind you to think for yourself, to think critically, and to align your actions, both as a founder and as a business, with the values of your company. We ask so many questions in marketing, And often the answer comes down to acting on what we value as founders, right? So I'll leave you with this. There are currently so many conversations and levels of conversations about the liberalization of marginalized members of society, one of them being this group of people right here, women. And, you know, what I'm tapped into is using entrepreneurship and food, no less, to lift these groups of people out of poverty and support their like communities. And it is extremely powerful. So I want to say at the end of the day, you know, we're working to be normalized in society so that the next generation of daughters, I don't have a daughter, but the next generation of daughters has a genderless and unracialized experience if and when they choose entrepreneurship, food service, whatever, as their way. Okay, so I hope that you can connect these dots. I hope that we continue to have a conversation about you as founders and your power as female founders in our society. Okay, there's, like I said, it's a whole marketing game. Okay, so that's a different kind of food that we're not used to, but I'm grateful that you listened, and let's get started. All right, so marketing as it relates to our product, lessons in marketing, how to talk about food, consumer packaged goods. So today we have two panels, like I said. We have our expert series, and then we have our entrepreneur series. Check the time here, we're at 9:11. So our first speaker is Larrisa Anderson from MGM Communications. Every time. And you might know MGM from their Little Red Riding Hood campaign, Saskatoon campaign. Larrisa is a wonderful person. She's bubbly, and I know her. I think we went to the same high school. We know we definitely have some mutual friends in common. So I'm really happy that she's here. And MGM is an amazing firm. And then we also have Mr. Jeph Maystruck from Strategy Lab, and he's going to be talking about strengthening product differentiation. So all of us know that our product is different, but how do we grow that? How do we expand that? He's coming to us from Strategy Lab, and some of you might know Strategy Lab from the work that we did with them with the digital marketing grants. So again, amazing company across and Canada-wide. And then to end our session, we have the secret agent of the group, Miss Stephanie Prefontaine, and she's coming at us independently. Her title is International Business Developer, and she's going to talk about some business development strategies that we can implement internationally. If there's time, we'll facilitate a Q&A, but I do want to make sure we get a break in at 10:20 to 10:30, okay? If there isn't time for a Q&A at the end of this panel, we will most certainly have a Q&A at the end of the next panel at 11:30 to noon. All right, so I'm going to pass the mic. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'm going to pass the mic to Miss Larrisa. Are you ready?
Yes, I am. Good. Thank you. Well, I am actually so pumped to be here. I heard about your program through Shanuka, and thank you for thinking of MGM for speaking today. The work that you do to empower women in the food industry is amazing. And trust me, I'm all about that taco power. So as long as, and as Shanuka mentioned, I am an account executive at MGM Communications. We're an advertising agency in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And we handle kind of every aspect of your advertising needs, strategy, digital, website, branding. But today in particular, I'm going to talk about brand loyalty and how to build it online. So I'm just going to take a minute. I'm going to share a couple links here in the chat. So we'll be using those throughout the presentation, and then I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started here.
Larrisa, I'm just going to interrupt for a second. To everyone, panelists and attendees, if you look to your chat box, you will be able to toggle the two. So make sure that you have, depending on who you want to talk to, if you want to talk to the group, make sure you toggle all panelists and attendees. Some of you have sent some messages in the chat just to the panelists, so I just want to make sure that you know that you can toggle that on and off, okay? Thanks, Larrisa.
No problem. All right, so hopefully everybody has the links, and I'm just gonna start her off here. Okay. And boom. All right, can everybody see that? Yes, thumbs up. Cool.
Yep, I can see it.
Perfect. Okay, so building brand loyalty online. What I'm going to go through today is why it is important. We're going to take some polls, and I'm going to go through some points that will help you stand out online and explore a real life example where we took a brand online. So before we get into it, what is brand loyalty? It is the trust that a consumer has to a brand. This trust will have the consumer coming back to the brand each and every time. Even though there's a bunch of brands out there, they trust and know your brand. That is brand loyalty. So since COVID, there has been a massive shift on how consumers are shopping online. Like even grandpa and grandma are online. I was listening to this podcast. Sabrina, the VP of Google Canada, mentioned that her parents who live in Italy started to use Google Chat and video for the first time because they felt that misconnection because there was no travel. And now she's saying they're shopping online, texting, and she's video chatting with them all the time. First, she thought it was great, and now she's like, okay, I can't get rid of them. So it's now people are getting comfortable with technology. So not only are they shopping, but they're discovering online. They're discovering brands right from their couch. They're no longer discovering them at events, experiences, samples, word of mouth, going to the store and comparing brands. It's all done online now. And most of the population has adopted e-commerce. So we have seen a 12% increase in e-commerce just in the past year because of the pandemic. So now that grandpa and grandma are tech experts, they're also getting comfortable using technology and purchasing everything online. Like now you can get gift cards, groceries, get meals from local restaurants. I mean, you can get liquor online. One good thing about the pandemic is I'm sitting on the couch in my sweatpants and I ordered a box of wine. Yes, and I said a box of wine. So how does this all affect brand loyalty? Well, 95% of purchase decisions are made online. So they're not getting that brick and mortar experience anymore, which companies use to enhance their brand perception. So online brand was kind of an option before, and companies were more forward thinking, invested in that, but not everybody was drinking that digital brand Kool-Aid. So now it's no longer an option, it's a must. Consumers are online, and we don't see that changing, even with things opening up. And with companies not spending a bunch of money on experiences and events, they're pouring more investment online, especially into brand. So that means that you have to work harder to stand out, to gain that brand loyalty. But before we dive in deep, I want to explain just a little bit more about brand. So brand consists of everything that has to do with your business from start to end. So at MGM, we've identified 3 main components that make up brand loyalty. The first being engagement. So this is getting people's attention. We cannot stress this enough at an advertising agency. If your content is not engaging, it does not work. You have to grab the viewer's attention for it to work. If you put blast stuff out there, you can put a whole bunch of stuff out there, but if it's not engaging, it's not going to get the results that you want. Secondly, the UX, the experience of finding, ordering, getting what you want from start to finish. It could be the experience of how well your website is run, how easy it is to navigate, how you can order by one click, how fast the product gets to them. And this is all part of the user experience. And third, fulfillment. So getting what you expected and hopefully a little bit more. This is like the feeling that you get, or like I get when I order an Amazon product and I'm like tracking it. And I'm like, okay, it's going to get here soon. And then when it gets there, I'm like, oh yes, I love it. This is the fulfillment, that warm feeling that they get after having your product, eating your product, loving it, sharing with friends. That is what we want. Today, I'm going to focus on engagement. So that's getting people's attention. This is personally, I think this is the hardest part of the whole branding experience. So how do you stand out in order to get attention? You do it through education, storytelling, and connection. And what a better way to explain these three components of engagement than to lead by example. So I'm going to take you through Affinity Credit Union's branding campaign that we did. And it showcases how we used education, storytelling, and connection to increase our brand loyalty online. So we are going to take a quick poll, and I'm just going to end my presentation so I can see the results. So if you could click on link 1, and that'll take you to a Google poll. And there's about 3 questions there. So if you guys could answer those. And I'm going to go to the results. Did the link work for everybody?
I just added it to the chat. I think maybe it was just a little too far. There's some.
Oh, it was lost. Okay. Thank you.
It says, Kristen says that they need permission.
Oh, really?
It says, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, just give me one moment. Sorry about that, you guys.
No problem.
Does that work for anybody? No, it doesn't, does it? Okay, well, we won't take the poll, but I'll tell you exactly why I was doing the poll.
Larrisa, can you use the poll at the bottom of the Zoom screen?
Oh, sure.
That if you want. It's up to you.
Question mark. You know what? I'm just going to go back to sharing my screen.
All right, no problem.
It sucks because I tested it out today with my friends. Okay, sorry about that, you guys.
No worries.
So what we did with the poll is I asked if you've heard of Affinity. Usually when people talk about Affinity, or usually people haven't heard of Affinity. And some of this in this case would be the fact that you're not from Saskatchewan. Affinity is a Saskatchewan local credit union. Also, we found out that people didn't understand the difference between banks and credit unions, or they didn't understand how they started. So we knew that we had a lot of work to do with our brand, and we knew we had to do it online. Sorry. So the first piece is education. So we want to inform the consumers of the products and services you offer them. You want to tell them who you are and showcase your values. So let's say you make snack chickpeas and you get them from a local provider. You want to tell them about those. You want to tell them where you source your products. What kind of products do you bake them a certain way? What kind of flavorings do you use? And you also want to showcase your values. So what sets you apart? What values set you apart from other people that make chickpeas snack food? And research. So for Affinity, we had 9%, we knew that 9% of the consumers had not even heard of Affinity, and they didn't understand the difference between a credit union and a bank. But research also told us that Affinity's target customers valued a local presence and being treated like a person. They wanted to invest in their communities. So all of these values aligned with Affinity's. So we wanted to explain how banks were for profit and credit unions were for nonprofit. So this means that credit unions were owned by their members, and it also means that they put their members first. So we took that information and distilled it down to a message to connect with our members while educating them. One of our copies was, our CFO doesn't wear hoodies, she wears bunny hugs. Oh, did my video set? I am so sorry. Here we go. So, and the next one is, our members are owners. Who owns your bank? These are both nods to a local and that credit unions are member owned. These were simple text-based creatives that hit our objective to educate. So from 2017 to 2020, the percentage of the general population that have never heard of affinity dropped from 9% to 5%. That means that our education worked and people were becoming more aware of affinity. So we've educated them, so let's tell a story now. We want to tell your story online. How did your business start? Were you a single mom making healthy energy balls, trying to learn the food industry, make something else, learn about marketing, all while your kids were asleep? Tell that story. Tell that success story. This will help you and your brand remain top of mind when people think. Like for me, if I'm thinking, oh, I want to get some energy balls, am I going to go to Booster Juice, or I'm going to go to this bad ass mom who made this happen all while being a single mom? Of course, I'm going to go to the one and support local. And obviously, and since COVID, we have to be more sensitive to consumers' emotions. Ever since COVID, the need for emotion has accelerated for brands. Consumers are connecting with brands who are sensitive to their emotions. Emotions has always played a big part in brand, but we have seen this just skyrocket. For affinity, for storytelling, we wanted to tell the credit union story. So in 1930, during the Great Depression, families and farms struggled to survive financially because of drought and crop failures. They weren't getting the support from the banks, so Saskatchewan communities had to rely on each other to create a better solution. They followed the steps of other cooperatives and created the credit union model. And this act was passed in 1937. So it was a financial solution made by members and owned by members. So using this one particular story from Harold Chapman, a local credit union member, we wanted to tap into our consumers' emotions and share our views of his powerful credit union journey. And we took it one step further, and we even reutilized that video to remind the public during COVID that Saskatchewan has seen hard times before, and credit unions were born from it. So I have a little clip of the Harold story that I'll play for you guys. And here we go.
I'm Harold Chapman. I was born in Saskatoon on April 27th, 1917. I grew up on my family's farm just outside the city. I started milking cows when I was about 8 years old, every morning and every night. Mother made butter each week, and Dad would take it, along with eggs and any other produce, to sell in town. By the time the Depression really settled in, I quit school and spent the next 5 years just working with my family on the farm. We had crop failures practically every year due to lack of rain. We were having a tough time. By the spring of 1934, Dad claimed that the mortgage was higher than when he bought the farm in 1916. Eventually, we just couldn't keep up, and we had to give up the farm.
What a powerful story. So I really encourage you, I did provide a link for the 6-minute video for the Harold story and a link to the Affinity Shared Stories. It's really worth the read and the watch. It's really, it's powerful for Saskatchewan. It's something to be proud of. So to gauge storytelling, we use top of mind metric to see if it was successful or not. We saw a 6% increase of top of mind mentions. When they think of an FI, they think of affinity. So that was from 2017 to 2020. So again, we're extremely happy with these results, and we know that it was working. Okay, we've educated, we've told the story. Let's make that connection now. So with connection, you want to be a part of their world, and you don't want to crowd it. So think of it as almost like, those National Geographics of photographers when they're like in the wild and they've got the little camo on there and they're just like watching the bears move. Think of it that way. You want to live naturally in their world, and you want to create content that's specific to that platform, which is part of not crowding it. Also, you want to make sure that content is relevant to them. Since everything is so saturated online, you want to make sure that what you're saying to your audience will mean something to them. Now, for Affinity, we knew that we did not hold a large market share for the younger demographic. And we also knew that in the future, this demographic was going to hold 40 to 60% of the buying power in the future. So we had to take initiative to prepare a targeted and relevant creative geared to this younger generation. And we also knew that we needed to create multiple executions because they get bored easily. So we needed to keep it relevant, keep it fresh, keep it moving here. So these are just some of the examples that we used on this younger focus. So did you just call us a bank? And 99 problems, but a bank doesn't have to be one. That's probably my favorite one. So we used these and we implemented it across all social platforms, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram stories, and we picked and choose which ones we would use where. And even to go outside of online, we had some like bathroom humor that we used for captive posting. So like when you're sitting in the bathroom at a restaurant, you're reading this funny, like, you know, our members only and stuff like that. So it was really fun. And we actually did well for this. So by catering to this younger demographic, going to where they live, and that is online and social media, even online banners, we saw that increase. From 18 to 24-year-olds, it had doubled in 2 years, that market share. And for 25 to 34, still happy with this metric because they're at that young adult stage, and it is hard switching over from financial institutions. So any increase there was happily received. Okay, since the polling's not work, I'm going to end my screen. I'm just going to talk to you guys, and then we'll use the chat to kind of go from there. I'm using 2 desktops, and it's been a struggle. Okay. So what I was going to ask in the poll, and I will put this in the, yes, I will share the screen. Thank you for the chat. So what I was going to ask is, let me just grab up my questions here. Can you guys put in the chat what the difference is between a bank and a credit union? I'll just take 30 seconds. Nice. Perfect. You guys are killing it. Banks are for profit. Yep. Member owned, nonprofit, locally owned, operated. I'm loving all these answers, you guys. This is great. Okay. Always like the family. Good. Yes, that's exactly what we want to go for. Okay. I'm going to ask, I know we've got a time limit here, so I'm going to ask the other questions. So how were credit unions started? This one might be a little bit of a longer answer, but you can shorten it up. Good, good. Nice. Thanks, Betsy. That's awesome. Thank you, Jenna. Yes, by the community. Key word there. That is great. Okay, one last question. So what is one thing you can do to help your brand stand out online? So I'll give you some options: promotions, education, or saturate digital platforms. So just choose one of those and put it in the chat. Education. Nice. Perfect. Good, good. Wonderful. Tell your story. Good. Storytelling. Yes, that's always an option. Depends on your product and service. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for answering that. So what I kind of wanted to showcase is that just in this 15-minute chat, I educated. I told the credit union story, so you guys know how credit unions were started. You know that credit unions are member owned. And I also made a connection with you guys today. So I'm not saying that building brand loyalty is easy. It's not. But with these 3 components, education, storytelling, and connection, it will give you a great start. The hardest thing about brand and brand loyalty online is that you're not going to see that tangible return right away. It's going to take some work. I mean, you saw with the results with Affinity, it took like 2 or 3 years. And that was us constantly pumping this stuff out. So the one thing you can take away is using those tools on your social, your website, any online presence that you have. And I will send out my slide deck with my email. So you guys, please feel free to email me and connect anytime. MGM's doors are always open for everybody. So thank you. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you so much, Larrisa. That was so great. So all of those points were amazing. I love the top of mind metric. And it's so fun to see, I shouldn't say fun, it's interesting when we, as consumers, are saturated in the campaign, and then we meet the people who are actually behind the campaign and break it down for us, and you say, hey, it's possible. Like the magic that you felt when you saw that campaign, you can create that by using these steps. So that was really fantastic. And thank you so much to MGM for being here today. We really love the community that we have with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And you're going to stick around for the rest of the conference, right?
Heck yes.
Okay. So attendees, you'll get a chance to talk to Larrisa during the Q&As. But for now, I'm going to move on to Jeph Maystruck from Strategy Lab. There he is. And I'm just going to pin his screen and then remove Larrisa. And here we go. All right. Take it away, Jeph.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, okay, that was awesome, Larrisa. I agree. I just bought my first box of wine. Now, this is half for my dad, not just for me. So I'm like, yes, I get it. Things are changing right now. I'm just happy to be here. I feel like when they were telling about who is going to be speaking, I literally on the phone was like, why do you have me? Because Larrisa and Stephanie, I think, are way better. So if you have technical questions, ask them, not me. I'm here to try to make you guys laugh a little. I'm the entertainment. We have a trivia game where I'm going to buy 3 books for the 3 winners. We're going to talk about superpowers. I'm so excited, but I figure I'm going to go over time, so I'm going to keep looking at my phone to make sure I don't, and then at 10 o'clock, I'm going to stop. Well, maybe not. Ask questions. I'm very off the cuff. It doesn't really matter. You can interrupt me if you want. If you have a fun Hawaiian shirt, please put your camera on. If you're not familiar with Menti, I use this program called Menti so you can follow along. If you don't want to be a part of the game, you don't have to do this. But in the chat, I'm just going to send you a link and a code. Basically, you're just going to go to menti.com. You're going to punch in those 8 digits, and then you're going to be able to follow along with me. This is very important because we start with a trivia game that is timed. And the 3 top winners, I will be buying either Brene Brown's Daring Greatly, but if you already have that, I'm going to buy you Anne Hanley's Writing Well. And if somebody just rolled their eyes saying, Jeph, I don't need a writing book. It's not a writing book. It's a marketing book. Shannon, who runs the marketing at Campion College, told me to read it because she said if she taught a marketing class, that would be her textbook. And so I read it and I loved it. So I'm paying you to be here today. I want you guys to pay attention a little. The presentation is called Every Brand Has a Superpower. What's yours? Now I'm going to start the presentation. You'll be able to see, just a second. No, I need to share my screen first. Just a second. If you can't get into Menti, when I share my screen, you'll see the code right at the top. Where are you? Sorry. I'll get it. Doesn't like that, does it? Okay, tell me if this works. Can you all see that full screen?
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah, okay. Let's go. It's called Every Brand Has a Superpower, because when we were talking about this, I'm not going to lie, I actually did get really intimidated because the organizations, again, that Stephanie and Larrisa are part of, are very big and very successful. I'm a part of Little Old Strategy Lab, and we build websites and do online strategy, and we try to teach things that we care about. So I'm nervous, so take this with a grain of salt. I will give you the slides after. Usually in person, I like to give away lottery tickets to make sure you're listening, and I always make the joke, I'll throw one at you if you're not. So actually, I don't even know if you're listening, so hopefully you can ask questions or at least participate. The next screen, okay, this is very important. The next screen after this, it's gonna ask you for a name. I teach a class in social media, and when I do this, if you use your real name and you suck at trivia, you may end up last, and I feel really bad for you. So what I tell people is use a fake name, please. So I don't want to embarrass anybody. Top 3 people are going to win a book. Are you ready to go? Okay, let's go. Ooh. Pick your name. Only 7 questions. It should go pretty quick. Can you guys hear the music too?
I can't really, no.
Never mind. I guess I'm the only one. So you guys see me dancing and you think I'm an idiot. Okay. Everyone ready to go? Picked your name? Okay, I'm telling you, this gets a little stressful because there's a countdown for every question. So it's not like, take your time. No, the faster you answer, the more you're gonna win. Okay, are you ready? Let's go. How old is the average apple in the grocery store? Is it A, 1 month, B, 3 months, C, 10 months, or D, 14 months? I stole these from, there's a book called Brandwashed. There's a book called Biology. Who guessed it? Only 1 person got it. 14 months, it's disgusting. I know, you'll never look at an apple the same. Google it. What you do after this is you Google that and you realize, oh my God, holy shnikes, that's gross. Just kidding. Okay, next question. What tastes better, Coke or Pepsi? The taste of it, okay? The taste. There's a very technical side to this I gotta talk about. From Brandwashed, who wins, Coke or Pepsi? Wow, right down the middle. Okay, here's the cool part. Pepsi technically tastes better. On any A/B test or a blind taste test, Pepsi will taste better. But when you ask people what are they tasting that tastes better, they will say Coke. So 9 out of 10 people think Coke tastes better, but Pepsi actually is sweeter, just by a little bit. I know some people hate me right now, the Coke crowd. I'm a Coke guy, I'm sorry.
Hey, Jeph,
Yeah.
One of our attendees has a question. I'm going to let them talk. Do you want to
Okay.
take it right now or after the
Yeah.
poll?
Yeah, we can take it right now.
Okay. Aaron, I'm going to allow you to talk, okay? Oh, here we go. Go ahead. Aaron? Aaron, if you have a question, just you can use the chat, okay?
We can stop right after the quiz too.
Sure. Awesome.
There's really weird music in my ears right now.
Okay, Jeph, keep going, please.
How much better do we think 3 colored toothpaste is versus only 1 color? Aquafresh, testing 1 colored toothpaste versus 3. How much better will the average human say it is? Ooh, everyone's going back to their morning this morning, like, what kind of toothpaste was I using? Yes, 73% better. And people will say their teeth look whiter, which is really funny because there's nothing different. But this is the power of marketing. This is what we do as marketers. We lie to you. Sorry. Question 4, almost done. Almost done. Does shampoo need to produce lots of sudsy bubbles to work? Do you need to have really foamy shampoo to make sure it's working? Let's see what people think. No, you don't. Sorry. When I read this one, I felt like my childhood was taken away from me. You don't need bubbles for soap to work? No, but it makes you think things are cleaner, so that's why it's added. Again, marketing's ruined our lives, sorry. Couple more. Does music affect the way we shop in a store? You ever been humming along to the music? Have you ever been at a fast food restaurant kind of bouncing your leg too fast because the music was quick? What do you think on this one? Yeah, oh, that was an easy one. Well, it turns out I'm not gonna ask that one again. I think it was Douglas Rushkoff found that in a grocery store, slow music will make you shop 38%, or you'll buy 38% more items because you're walking slower. And then fast food restaurants will want to play fast music to make you chew faster to get you out of there. So the next time you're in a store, listen to the music and ask yourself, what are they trying to make me do? Fascinating. 2 questions left. There's a certain shade of yellow that will make you want to buy more bananas than other shades of yellow. Is that true, or is Jeph just making stuff up? Again, I'm ruining the grocery aisle for you. If you look this up, it's sad. They've actually figured out there's a hue of yellow that actually makes you want to buy more bananas. If you don't think, you can go into that a little bit further to figure out how they're modifying food right now, but it's pretty crazy. I like to know what I'm buying. Last question. We'll find out who the winners are now after this. Does the closed door button work in most elevators? Has nothing to do with food, but I just had to get this off my chest. Based on a Planet Money podcast on the topic, I can send references later on. What are your thoughts on this one? The vast majority of closed door buttons do not work. It's a conspiracy. I've ruined elevators now for you too, because the next time you hit it, you're gonna be like, no, it's not hooked up. And it was off a Planet Money podcast where the Freakonomics guys, I think, were talking with them about why would the closed door button not work? And it's just there to make you feel like it's working, because when you hit it, eventually it's gonna close. Ugh. Okay, let's see who won. Awesome. I one time had a 3-way tie and it ruined me. Homer, Shen, Vroom. I need you guys to just direct message me your email address in the chat. And if you already have Brene Brown's Daring Greatly, let me know and I'll get you the Anne Handley book. But I think everyone needs to read Brene Brown's Daring Greatly. Thanks for playing along, everybody. That was fun. Again, do not allow people to use their real names because you're going to break someone's heart and it sucks. But that's okay. I'm competitive, so I like little quizzes. We don't have a terribly lot amount of time, but what I wanted to kind of pitch to you is every brand does have a superpower. And instead of looking at your, call it business strategy or corporate documents, what I want you to create is the back of a superhero card with all of your abilities and almost like a plan to how you're going to increase them. Because like any superhero, they're gaining in power, just like you as a company, you're gaining in power. But if you don't have any powers, or you don't think you have any powers, even worse, you're never going to grow any of them. So today I wanted to take just a few different case studies from different organizations, Jones Soda being one of them. But really after the conversation I had about differentiation, I just looked at, well, do you want to be Coke or Jones Soda? And nothing against Coke. They're big, they're bad, they're huge. But also they're on a program that they don't need to be creative anymore. To me, it's not fun marketing, it's programmatic. Whereas Jones Soda, you can have fun with it still. You can put pictures of people. It's the soda of the people. This is why I think it's important to have a superpower. How many times have you been in this aisle or any aisle, and you looked and said, what the hell am I looking at? How do you make a decision? Well, I think there's more calcium in this one. Come on. It's like the wine aisle when I'm selecting wine and someone's like, do you need help? And I'm like, no, I know what I'm looking at. No clue. I look at the coolest label and I buy it. As much as I'm a marketer, I fall for all of the same tricks, tips, and whatever. And so a part of me, I love, love, love being a student of marketing to sit here and say, who's grabbing my attention? Who's trying to sell to me? And beyond that too, with pricing, what are they trying to do with that? I could spend a whole day in a supermarket. I go to supermarkets probably 3 to 4 times a week. My daughter and I go a lot. Oh yeah, as I was listening to that intro this morning, I had this moment of, I have a 2-year-old at home and an infant, but he's a boy, so we won't talk about him. But for my daughter, I realized a lot of what I've been doing with the YWCA here in Regina and trying to champion women in business. I had this, like, for the last 2 years, this moment where I was like, I'm not doing this for me anymore. It's for my daughter, it's for my family. Because I don't want her to grow up in the world that I grew up in, the patriotic, you know what I mean, the man does things and the woman does other things. In my household, I do most of the cooking. I don't believe in the old way of doing things, mostly because I love cooking. So a part of me is like wants to break down the constructs of society because I love bacon and cooking. So remember this is your competitors. You're not going to outspend some of these groups. And if you think you can, well, good luck, I would say, but it doesn't work. You're going up against some of the biggest companies in the world. And so what I want you to do is start thinking about the idea diffusion curve. And yes, Seth Godin's talked about this. Simon Sinek's talked about this. Pretty much every marketer that's trying to get you to pitch something that's going to grow has talked about stop going after the majority of the audience. Stop going after that chunky middle where all those people have their money waiting for you. Yes, it looks enticing, but nobody there is going to buy a brand new product or a product that one of the innovators or early adopters haven't tried out. So the pitch is, who are your innovators? Who are your early adopters? Who's got your back? Who's talking about you behind your back, selling your product for you? Because if you can figure that out, the rest of the curve solves itself. There is another great book called Crossing the Chasm that talks about going from early adopters to the early majority. And it talks about gaining steam. I think it's the 100 true fans, the whatever you launch, who's going to buy it? If you always have people that are there to open it up and say, yes, buy, you're doing it right. And this, I think, goes into a little bit more customer research. I've always loved that there's a story of AJ Lafley at P&G. No matter what trip he was on, he would go visit customers in their houses. Here's the CEO of a major company saying, actually, I need to go to the house to see what they're doing. Think about that and how they've grown, and think about what he was doing. He was visiting the innovators and early adopters to understand what they were looking at, seeing, smelling, doing as they were using their products. Please, we keep going back to this, and I keep showing clients this because I tell them, what you're trying to do is go after the big chunky middle, which is never going to work. Who loves you? Who are your innovators? Who's going to talk to their friends about you? Jones Soda, Ben & Jerry's, Steam Whistle, Voodoo Donuts. I will talk about Beichu Kimchi and Primal Pie as well. But these 4 stood out of my mind because I have little personal stories about all of them. But to me, they're weird in their own way. They have a unique something about them. In a traditional sense, yeah, we'd call it a unique selling proposition, or you could call it their blue ocean strategy. You could call it their competitive advantage. I call it a superpower because it's easier. And it leads into really cool exercises of coming up with superpowers. But really when it comes down to it, it's the Bonnie Raitt philosophy of marketing. Let's give them something to talk about. Think about that. What does social media do? It just gives people that are allowed to talk about you. Yes, we think right away, well, they complain about us. Yeah, but the opposite is also true. If you give them something to share about you, they're going to talk about you. And what I think the brands that I talk about, what they do is marketing is in the product. They don't have to spend a lot on advertising because the product's unique enough that people want to talk about it. That's where I think the money lies. Steam was, so I got to visit these guys in 2005 when I was in university. Second year, I was angry at a conference because they closed the bar for the speaker. Turns out the speaker was the CEO of Steam Whistle. And I'm at the bar like a dumb 19-year-old. Hey, how come I can't get a beer? Just losing my mind. And Cam Heaps comes up and said, hey, you can have one of mine. And I look at him, and at the time I was brewing beer in my basement and selling it to my mom's friends, so I was kind of like a bootlegger, and I told him about that. He uses that in his presentation, and in the middle of everybody, I said something about his belt, and he's like, well, I like yours better, let's switch. And so in front of all of my peers, and I'm second year university, so I'm not even like old, or nobody knows me. I switch belts with this guy, and then we get to talking after. He said, what are you guys doing? You're not leaving till Sunday, come for a visit. This is the guy that was the CEO and founder of this company. He didn't know us from a hole in the ground. He took 5 individuals for a private tour of Steam Whistle, and then he let us come over to his condo and go hot tubbing before we left. If you look at Steam Whistle's growth since 2005 till now, history solves itself. No matter where you are, you need to treat people like humans and like friends. I'll never forget the story, because Cam, at the time, he might have been a millionaire. I don't know. I know now he's doing quite well. But the bigger picture was, we do one thing and we do it damn good. That's it. That's Steam Whistle in a nutshell. Now, recently they've launched a pale ale, so I'm like, ah! But it was 16 years of one product. So that to me is my lesson to you. What's your one thing? What's your product that people are going to know you for? And when I asked them about coming to Saskatchewan, he said, no, that's not our strategy. We want to be so good people demand us in their other markets. Think about that. Don't try to get into other markets. Get your customers to demand you in that market. If you've never heard of Jones Soda, you may have grown up under a rock. But what I love Jones for is it's a sugared beverage that you can buy at the corner store for, you can buy one at the grocery store for much, much cheaper. So why do people buy Jones? There's personalization. You can go to their website and order your own bottles. You can find a friend on a bottle if they've ever had their picture printed. There's some customization that what the internet has done has made Jones, it's actually relatively easy to do. When they first started, very difficult. Think about that. They had to have people send photos into them to actually put them on bottles. Wild. So, do you want to be Coke? Do you want to be recognized like everybody else? Or do you want to have a different label for everything you do? Ben and Jerry's, now I use them because, and we were talking a little bit about this at the start, caring as a strategy, helping people as a strategy. This literally is on one of my things I talk about with every client. What are you doing in the community? What's the one post every 2 weeks we can do about how you're caring about the community? Because if you don't and if you can't, we're probably not going to work together very long. And that's a cool like stipulation of, if you don't care about the community, why are you working with us? That's our bread and butter. But when you look at guys like Ben and Jerry and see what they do, go to their website. They actually have listed all of the causes that they're championing right now. When I grow up, I want to be that company that people can look up to, not just for great product, because the other part is, yes, it's great ice cream. But the bigger product is, if you're going to justify me not buying locally here, because there's local ice cream makers that I love, change the world, help people, do something. I mean, in the bigger context, Patagonia is the poster child for helping society, but they're not afraid to put their stake in the ground. And I work with a lot of brands that won't do this. They're too scared. They don't want to champion anything because, well, they're going after the big majority again. Go after the innovators that actually care about something. They're going to tell other people about what you're doing. Third last one. I went to Portland 5 years ago now, and I heard about Voodoo Donuts, and I'm a little bit of a food nerd, so I'm like, yeah, we got to go. Then there's a line. So now I'm at the exhibition, and it's a 45-minute wait for the zipper, and I get there, and the donuts are $1.25. You get a whole box for under $10. And I literally walk out of the store, I'm like, what the hell? You wait for an hour of your life to spend like $5 to $10 for one of the coolest art piece boxes I've ever seen. And then it dawned on me that you don't have to charge a lot to grow your business. It's actually the opposite. What you want to do is make it very affordable so you can scale. But where's the art? Where's the fun? Where's the free prize inside, as Seth Godin would say, or the purple cow moment? This. You can't walk out with the Voodoo Donut box without people going, what the hell is that? And if this was a clothing presentation, I would talk about Lululemon. Do you know how much more this box would cost to print than just a plain white box? Don't you think customers know that when they're walking out? I talk to a lot of people that don't want to spend money on packaging. And it's, again, they're going after the majority of the curve. Don't go after the innovators. When I met Addie Tan, she was at the farmer's market in Regina. And I'll never forget the moment because it was about 12 o'clock. So still about an hour left, lots of time, it's busy. And I go there and kimchi sold out. Addie Tan, what happened? You guys must be really busy. And she snickers at me. Well, I like to sell out every weekend. What? Why? Jeph, shows that people actually like what they're buying. And so she actually controls her inventory to the point, when I first met her, little things too, the little cat emoji is all over her website in funny places. Basically, we tried to work with her to do her marketing, and she kept teaching us how to do marketing. So at one point, we're like, Addie Tan, you're good. All we can do is help you with your vision. But when we first started working with her, why kimchi in Regina? Good luck. Why you? And she just didn't break a smile at all. It just says, who do you buy kimchi from right now? Who's your kimchi? Like, who's the producer? And I had this moment of, oh my God, she was the one. She was the first one in Regina that made kimchi at a mass level. And so call it first mover advantage, call it she just saw a need in the marketplace. I liked that attitude. And at the time she had a full-time job because it was difficult. By the time we ended up, I think we are still working with her, but she's way smarter than I am on this stuff. She's running it. She's doing so good. But I would say talk to her how she's doing some things, because she's got quite a bit of grocery stores too that, again, I look up to. Last example, do something that no one's done before, because then weirdos like me are going to get your back because we love it. Primal Pie is a local company that's trying to do subscription pizza. I know what you're thinking, subscription pizza, like delivered? Yes, it's frozen pizza. And again, somebody's like, Jeph, I don't like frozen pizza. This is like Western pizza or Houston pizza in a box. And then when you want to look at market size, next time you're at the grocery store, look how big the frozen pizza aisle section is. That's when I was like, holy shnikes, you guys are onto something here. And it's good pizza. Now, hopefully I get my way. We're going to write jokes in the box, hopefully. I don't know if they'll listen to me though, because that's a little out there. But again, I'm looking to talk to innovators. I don't care about the majority. But when they came to us and they said they had something that's never been done before, they wanted to do this, my eyes lit up and said, yes. Because even if you fail at it, you're going to learn a whole bunch about the marketplace and you're going to make some people really happy with your pizza. In closing, there's only one way to get better at this stuff. If you don't think you have a superpower, you have to lie to yourself. You have to create that reality distortion field that Steve Jobs always talked about, saying, no, I'm going to be this. Remember, superheroes don't start out with all those skills in the back of the card. They learn those over time. You can too. And how do you do that? We talk about practice. There's a part of me when I was telling an organization that wants to talk about how they care in the community, they said, Jeph, we don't know how to do that. And I said, you've already done the best part. You've planned to talk about it. There is no right step forward. All it is saying, I'm going to start caring about disabilities in my community, so I'm going to champion that cause. That may be a once a month lunch and learn with your team just to learn about something. But I always go back to whatever that superpower is. If you can fix community, if you can help community, if you can do something within the community, people are going to jump on what you're doing so fast. We're a living testament of it. Strategy Lab, we basically have always partnered with the community to do anything. And it's been our saving grace through pandemics and through downturns in business. There's always nonprofits that need something. This is what I was talking about, the superhero back of your card. So instead of Spider-Man, I want your brand. I don't want a 30-page document, because guess what? Most people don't read those, I'm sorry. What you want is like a 1 to 2 pager with bullet points. Who are we? What do we do? What do we care about? That's it. If it's too complicated, no one's gonna read it. If it's simple enough, we'll put it up on the wall and we'll reference it every day. Don't be afraid to have a superpower. Don't be afraid to help community. It's actually, now's the time to do it. Here's the template. I'm sure you can find a better one though. Like I said, I want to buy, 3 of you need to direct message me about the book. This should be scary. What I'm telling you to do is to do something you've never done before, is to care about something you've never cared about before. That's freaking scary. So read this book. This book will give you that inner strength that will tell you that if it's scary, you need to lean into it. You need to do it because it's going to teach you something. There's a really cool quote, vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage, but truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they're never weakness. I think the biggest misconception is when you start talking about your feelings and how you are, and your story is the other one. I know a lot of people, who's going to care about our story? You have no idea. Who wants to know about the farm you planted, 100 years ago in Saskatchewan? But there's pretty much everyone in Saskatchewan wants to know that story. Thanks for sharing that earlier. Okay, this is the end, but I used to have an economics prof that wrote 4 to 8 pages of notes every class. Like, you hated every minute of it. And the second he would finish writing, he would turn around and ask, any questions, comments, or concerns? Like we could keep up with him. And so I try to end presentations off that I talk too fast in to say, I'm being like my econ prof, sorry for bombarding you. But really when it comes down to it, it's have a conscience. We don't want to follow a brand that just sells a widget anymore. We want to care about where that widget is being made. Is it helping people somewhere else? And can I brag about this widget to my friends? That's what we do nowadays. And so watch people. There's an ice cream place in Regina called Desert. You can literally watch people. They get their ice cream, they go around the corner to the nice colored wall, and they take a picture. Like, you can create these moments in time where people are going to talk about your brand, but they're not just going to accidentally happen. You have to create those moments. Same thing with caring about community. You can't just wait for somebody to say, hey, we're the Alzheimer's Society, you need to care about us. No, you need to ask your team, what do we care about? who do we need to champion? And since the get-go, we've championed disability at work, and that's working out really well for us. We actually have another interview right away with a fella who might start on our video team, but I ramble, so I'm going to stop now. Hopefully 3 people messaged me because I need to send books off.
All right, Jeph, thank you so much. I was actually one of the people that was in the top 3, so you should look
You
at the
cheated.
poll. I didn't cheat. I just cheat. But if you can
I kid.
pass the book down, and you can, if you want, you can send me the names so I can make sure that the people get their books. Thank you again so much, Jeph, for your knowledge. I thought that was really great. Thanks for the energy, and very grateful for Strategy Lab and your commitment to the awesome program, because we've done some work together, and I hope that we continue to do so. So thanks again for being with us this morning, and you're sticking around for the rest of the conference. So
I will, but I'm gonna sneak home. I do have a 3-week-old at home that I left mom with 2 kids, and so
I'm sure all the people on this call understand that. So, but yeah, we will have a chance to chat with you, do some Q&A with you later. Thanks again. Now, I'm going to welcome our 3rd speaker. So excited to welcome Stephanie Prefontaine. As I mentioned, she's coming at us as a secret agent, and her title is International Business Developer. So Stephanie, if you are ready, thank you for joining us. I'll let you take it away.